Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this session. The summit is all about AI, so of course we're not going to introduce AI in here, but it shows the summit and the focus shows how important AI is today and what kind of an impact it has on our lives on different levels, including the governmental part. So basically, the importance of AI. About this. So the importance of AI comes in different ways and aspects because it impacts the economic, the social part of our lives. It impacts the skill sets that we're looking at today. And it has great value in trying to improve our lives, the citizens' life. And this is one of the key factors why governments today are focusing on AI, because it will help reduce energy usage. It will help in cybersecurity solutions. It will help in healthcare. It will help in providing a better life for everyone, taking into consideration all the poverties and the challenges we have around the world. There are a lot of examples when it comes to AI. McKinsey lists that there are 400 use cases representing $6 trillion in value across 19 industries in AI, and that's huge. And if we look at it in medicine, the diagnostics of different like cancer or heart diseases are much more accurate because of AI. If we look at HR, there are a few examples like when it comes to job screening, when it comes to interviews, when it comes to video analytics of interviews, when it comes to even monitoring people and helping them grow in their path, then AI has a great role in that. When it comes to energy and all the challenges that all countries are facing today, there's a great impact of AI there. And regarding our session today and why it's important, because governments have a lot of challenges. Challenges come from inequalities, poverty, providing the proper resources. It comes in the part of how to reskill citizens, whether these citizens are hired in the governmental entities or they're hired in the private sector. So these are all key points to look at when we look at AI and the impact of it today and its importance. If we look at the race, and I was personally surprised when I looked at the number of countries actually and governments today that have already or are currently deploying and actually forming strategies for AI and seeing how they can improve the way they are managing their countries accordingly. Of course, today we have a great panel, and I'm really honored to be part of it. So I'm gonna allow each of my esteemed panelists to introduce themselves and their experience in AI. So we will start with Abdullah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. Thank you very much for this invitation, and we're glad to be here to share a small experience of how Oman is progressing on AI. My name is Abdullah Raqadi. I'm Director General of Information Technology at Ministry of Health. We have a small experience, I would say, in adopting artificial intelligence in detections of breast cancer, and it has been deployed recently in 2 hospitals, and we are going to deploy it in 3 additional hospitals by end of November, inshallah. So it was a successful, we can say. It was being piloted. We want to test the AI, whether it is really intelligent enough or is it stupid enough. So as you all aware that breast cancer is one of complicated cases, and it has to be verified by 2 radiologists. We want to ensure that whether AI really can take out one of the elevators, and how fast and accurate is AI on detecting breast cancer. We have piloted for 151 cases, and the successful rate was 96%. This is where it gives us an opportunity where we can implement it in the hospitals, and we can reduce the cases. Currently, most of the countries, they have lack of specialized people on diagnosing the breast cancers. So what we are aiming is to have a proper tools where it can assist the radiologist and speed up the detections of what you call breast cancers.
Thank you, Abdullah. Samer?
Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you, Ruban. Thanks, everyone. Grateful for having me here. Well, my name is Samer Bidat. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Stallion Artificial Intelligence Group. It's a Canadian AI company with operations in New York, Limassol, and Dubai. We are very happy to expand in Jordan recently. So our main focus basically is on defense investment management, and we also basically focus on Arabic natural language processing technologies, which can basically be applied on different sectors, including customer service, finance, healthcare, and different kind of industries. My academic background is investment management using deep learning. So I have a degree in computational finance, and we spent the last 4 years basically building something called Investify, which is an AI-driven investment management company that can manage investment portfolios using something called deep learning, which is part of AI. And the main goal here is to deliver relatively higher risk-adjusted returns than most of the benchmarks that we are having. We also focus on doing custom deep learning. So usually governments, companies coming to us, and we help them on how to deploy a machine learning layer on top of their infrastructures. I'm going to save the rest of my turn to the other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ali.
Thank you, Ruba, and thank you all for having me here. My name is Ali Hajjaj, and I spent my 20 years of career in technology. And during 2016, we noticed a great hype about artificial intelligence and how it will change our lives in the global technology community. And we noticed the lack of that hype in this region. So we founded Labiba with the mission to develop advanced AI technologies, localize it where needed, and bring it to this region. Labiba is currently operating in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Bahrain. We also work in Oman as well, with leading organizations who are willing to explore the benefits of AI. And I'm happy to share with you today my experience with the governments of these countries. So thank you again.
Thank you. And Ingmar.
Sure. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here. So yeah, I'm the research director for social computing at the Qatar Computing Research Institute. I'll talk more about our work a bit later, but I actually want to tell you a bit about my own journey in AI. So I was first exposed to machine learning in the early 2000s when I was a PhD student, but that was in a purely academic setting. I was just learning about, statistical learning, etc. sort of. And then my own hands-on experience came a few years later when I was a postdoc in Switzerland, working on things such as classifying the topic of a web page based only on the URL, nothing else. You're just given only sort of the URL. And then later I had the opportunity to work really on sort of an industry scale AI when I was at Yahoo Research in Barcelona, working on data of hundreds of millions of users worldwide. And that was really very almost like moving experience because you also get to see the human side of data because all the data is sort of generated by humans. Now at the moment I lead a team of about 20 scientists, engineers, postdocs, data scientists, let's say more broadly sort of so, working on a number of topics ranging from traffic analysis to health to online analytics and even to things such as poverty mapping. And later I'll talk a bit more about Qatar's perspective on AI in general and on the Qatari national strategy for AI.
Thank you very much. It amazes me actually how old yet new AI is. And if you look at the history of everyone here on the panel, they had with AI, it's long history, but now we're just trying to understand the impact. So, Samer, my first question is to you. Uh, it's based on your experience with the Canadian government. As we understood that the Canadian government focused a lot on the human capital part of AI, how to cultivate and attract high-skilled talents. So, could you please share the Canadian experience in that manner?
Absolutely. Well, we do have a very successful experience with with the Canadian government, basically. Our Canadian team is ranked top 10 by the Canadian government as an AI vendor. So we are basically in the band 3, which is the highest band, eligible to provide AI solutions to the government. The focus basically was to target 3 challenges here, starting with the lack of specialized knowledge in artificial intelligence. So obviously the lack of awareness is not only in the Middle East, it's everywhere, right? So it's very early stage. So we were basically partnering with the University of Ottawa in Canada. We hire PhD researchers to work with us on real-life applications and R&D projects. We also focus on providing some, let's say, use case discovery workshops to the government entities over there. So we sit with them. We do basically starting with doing the essentials and the foundations of AI, the history, enablers, etc. And we basically do the second part of the sessions by focusing on how to define the problem that is related to machine learning and how basically we can solve their problems and streamline their processes bottlenecks using AI, and thus basically reduce inefficiencies, speed up the taking the decision process, let's say, and most importantly, basically reduce uncertainty, which is very expensive and very costly to most of the governments. So on the other side, we were focusing also on infrastructure, so how to make infrastructure affordable, accessible to the national AI infrastructure in Canada, focusing on business, which is very important, basically. So if you are a startup and you want to start doing AI, you need to have a government that supports you, right? So you need to have ease to establish or set up processes so that you do not basically get stuck at the beginning and struggle for the rest of the journey. So it's very important to have all this government support, the grants, the tax freedom, let's say, and so forth. So these are most of the things that we were focusing on other than developing solutions.
I'm sure most of us here also trying to learn how we can benefit from all this experience in Jordan, and we'll come back to that.
Absolutely.
But were there things where you faced specific challenges when it came to actually finding the right people to reskill and skill on AI?
Well, I don't want to compare that to Jordan. Canada is right now, Toronto is the hottest AI hub in the world, right? So we have the top 10 AI engineers most of them from Canada. So the talent, the education, the universities, the number of PhD students in AI over there is absolutely incompatible with any part of the world. So finding the right segment, it's much easier. What was that?
Except Jordan.
We have
Jordan-
special ones in
Yes,
Jordan.
Jordan is
We're very special.
I mean, if the governments and the private sector, the research institutes work all together, collaborate together, we can create a regional hub here,
Yes,
right? So,
of course.
but Canada, it's much easier than finding the right segment in Jordan, absolutely. So, yeah. Yes.
Well, good to know. Okay, Ingmar. Qatar is a forward-looking nation today, and they're actually leading in many aspects. And they have a vision of basically transforming themselves to becoming a knowledge-based economy. So if you can share with us, how do you believe that Qatar plans to be a leader in the race of AI adoption?
Sure, yeah, so now I have to compete against my Canadian colleague here, sort of. So,
Tough competition,
Yeah,
though.
tough competition. No, no, but in all honesty, I mean, at least the certain foundations that we are very grateful for relate to a long period of investment in education technology. For example, I invite you all to have a look at our education city if you should ever visit Doha. Now, when it comes to AI more specifically, I don't think Qatar has the ambition to become the world leader. It's just not realistic, right? Comparing against heavyweights such as the US, Canada, China, or sort of also, right? So it's really important to pick niches where we can actually be world leaders and sort of so on. So one such niche where we think there is a opportunity sort of so relates to medical research and also medical tourism sort of so on. So why do we believe that there's a chance there? So for a number of reasons. So first, Qatar is already investing heavily in the Qatar Genomics project, which sort of tries to do whole genome sequencing for 300, 400,000 people of the population, mostly Qatari nationals. This is an amazing effort and will provide an amazing data set, for all types of omics analysis. Second, Qatar already has a very advanced healthcare system, including a single nationwide electronic healthcare record system. So it doesn't matter which hospital you go to, it all goes into the same system. Again, there's an amazing data set that can be analyzed. And then on top of that, so the Qatari population is actually very diverse. I mean, I'm sure as you're aware, about 90% of the population, including myself, are not Qatari nationals. So there are a lot of countries that are represented. So that gives you again a very nice, diverse sort of data set, so to analyze. And then on top of this, there are already nice educational facilities there. So Weill Cornell Medicine has a branch campus there. Which, to my knowledge, that's the only place in the world where you can get a degree from the US. I mean, a US medical degree while you're not in the US. So that's sort of one niche where we really think that it makes sense for Qatar sort of also to try. There are others sort of also related to transportation and smart cities. Many cities in Qatar are still being built, like in particular Lusail, just north of Doha. So that could be like an experimentation place. And then also things related to experience that we already had built up at our institute, for example, related to the analysis of dialectic Arabic, where I think we are certainly among the world leaders, if not world leaders for dialectic Arabic. So it's really important to sort of, again, not have the ambition, be the global leader in AI. I don't think Qatar will realistically sort of so, but, try to identify niches where that's actually an opportunity. And one of the reasons that is really necessary is that there's a certain winner-takes-all dynamics in AI, whereas once your system is best, you get the best, more data sort of so given to you, and then your system gets even better. Similar thing related to talent and the extraction of talent. So it's really good to go deep and lead in some experts rather than trying to do everything at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I agree. At least identifying where you can excel and where you should specialize is a very, very good start point. Abdullah. So as per Booz Allen, organizations that are best positioned to succeed in an AI-enabled world are those that combine human strength with machine learning intelligence. So how do you see the Omani government capitalizing on that? So from a technology perspective, one part of it, and then from the human strength, the other part of it.
Well, I think Oman is like any other countries now. AI becomes a mandate, or it's going to be a mandate. We cannot escape from that. Well, as a government, first of all, we appreciate that information technology is being given an asset, or it's been announced initially that's been upgraded the Information Authority to Ministry of Information Technology and Telecommunications. So to have the combinations between the human and the machine learning, I think Oman is part of their strategy is to invest a lot on not only in AI, but in whole fourth industrial revolutions. So the government is trying to build capacities by encouraging them into different and improve their skills on this industrial revolution. So the government, they have set on the Ministry of IT and Telecommunications sandbox where it gives an opportunities for the innovators to produce different technology, different solutions. As one of the actions or strategy is to ensure that, or to make the country exporting the technology to the world rather than just importing the solutions. So they have started with announcing last year a forum on AI, where they have discussed about different solutions, different technology, and they are really stressed on building up different solutions. I have heard that Ministry of Justice, I believe, or Ministry of Awqaf, they have built, for example, a smart mosques where they have used IoT is to decrease the energies on the electricity, on the air, and to ensure that the counting of people, how much need to be leaving the mosques. And there are also different projects on blockchain as well, especially on licensing. So, and results of this is the successful projects within Ministry of Health of using AI in breast cancer, as I have mentioned earlier. In addition, now Ministry of Health also is trying to piloting AI on chest classifications. So it's trying to balance between both to ensure a successful use of AI.
Well, I think 2 points you mentioned are quite important, and I think it's very important for the Arab world in general. And Ingmar, I think, mentioned the same. It's the innovation part. So I think most of the Arab world lags behind a little bit when it comes to innovation. We usually follow technology, and we actually adopt technology, but we're not yet leading in actually in technology, or in having enough skill sets to actually outsource maybe to other parts of the world. And I think it's great what you're doing when you offer innovation labs for people to actually try and think out of the box and become more innovative. And I love the mosque idea. I think that's great.
Well,
I've
well-
never thought of it, to be honest.
If you allowed me just to, I have heard that AI is being produced, or it's been there from 1956. To my opinion, is very far from that date. If we remember, the internet or even AI, it won't be there if Al-Khwarizmi, who are really the science of algorithm.
Yes.
So we are, Al-Khwarizmi is an Arabic guy. So we are proud that AI is because of Arab.
True. That's a great way to look at it. We should promote that, by the way. We should. So Ali,
Yes.
spending 20 years in technology and in AI and in all the development. So from your perspective, so what is the impact of AI on government policies? Because governments are governments. There are a lot of bureaucracy there. And when you try to introduce AI into that, there is a big impact. So
Yes.
how do you see that?
I think it's better to discuss the impact of government policies on AI
Well, yeah.
development, and maybe that can give us a better opportunity. So AI comes with a promise of many great benefits, as you mentioned. It has benefits on advancement in science, healthcare, better lifestyle, better jobs, and everything. But these advancements do not come without risk. And we already witnessed risks in privacy, in security, and even in politics for the government. We all followed the story of Cambridge Analytica a few months back, being accused of manipulating the public opinion in the US elections. And that means that AI has risks that we need to deal with. So policymakers need to be aware of these risks to maximize the benefits that can be brought to the population. And in order to do that, they need to be informed, and they need to be aware. And there is a need for a public-private partnership to bring AI that is safe, trusted, and usable. And it's good to mention that the leadership in our sector, represented by His Excellency Muthanna Gharaibim, he formed a committee for artificial intelligence to have this policy in place. And it's important to have it in the flags that you showed before, because Jordan was missing.
Yes, hopefully we'll
And,
have it there
yeah,
next time.
it has to be there already.
And Qatar.
It includes members of different policy-making entities, as well as private sector, whereby me and Samir are joining. So it's good to have all these experiences together. And I think this is how AI can be implemented and used for the population.
Well, I'm glad you and Sam are at least helping Jordan.
Yes,
with
regardless of who's
that.
helping, it's good to have the private sector and the technical
Public, of
expertise
course.
in place. Yes.
True. I agree 100%. So, Ingmar, how and when did the idea of Qatar actually, when did they start and how did it all start to place a policy in place on AI?
Sure. So the development, what was initially just the blueprint for a national AI strategy, started about a year ago inside our institute, so inside the Qatar Computing Research Institute, where we thought there was an opportunity to focus a bit of the discussion on a knowledge-based, economy or society more on AI in particular. So at that point, then we started drafting a document, and we sort of shared it with government entities, in particular the Ministry for Transportation and Communication. And then based on their feedback, we sort of refined the document, and actually just this morning, like as I'm speaking basically now, it was then officially endorsed as the national AI strategy, sort of. So it was announced.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're quite proud of this. And so one of the few next step is then sort of the government will create working groups for sort of different pillars that we have identified, where we sort of think, the government should really invest on, like including ethics as a sort of the foundational layer.
Yeah, well, ethics and transparency, I guess, are one of the fundamental benefits from deploying AI if they're deployed, as you said, properly and correctly. Since globally, I think there's a little bit of mistrust today between citizens and governments, and
Yes.
so more transparency based on AI and algorithms actually will bridge the gap more.
Yes.
Samir, so now we go to real life applications. So can you share with us like use cases in different verticals, whether be it government or private, of how AI is deployed?
Well, we found our blue ocean basically. We are trying to be niche or to offer something very niche in the market, just to avoid any kind of head-on-head red ocean competition. So as a company, we try to focus on, first of all, the language or the natural language processing technologies. Obviously, English content is everywhere, so there is very mature, let's say, NLP models. But for Arabic is very challenging. Maybe Labiba knows that very well.
Yes, we know it very well.
and most of the governments, private sector in the Middle East, they are basically dealing in Arabic content. So, and there's not enough content for that. So we definitely need to work on this very hard, especially when it comes to customer service, especially when you have different kind of Arabic dialects, basically. So you need to train the models. You need to teach AI how to understand Iraqi dialect or Khaliji dialect or etc. So we really focusing on this problem as an R&D problem. We build our own in-house models, starting from NLP to Arabic word embedding models to different kind of things. Basically, the team is doing a great job in Canada as well as in the UAE. And we are trying to expand this R&D operations into Jordan because we have talent here also, right? So, and absolutely collaboration between even the private stakeholders is very, very important. Some of the use cases that we are working on right now with different kind of government entities in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. So starting with, for example, in process automation, there are different kind of forms, applications, reports, etc. needs to have an AI to read and analyze it and even audit it, basically. So one of the solutions that we have is AI for internal auditing. So in English version, we already sold it out to the Switzerland Stock Exchange, Canadian government, to different kind of governments basically all around the world. In the Arabic version, we are building it right now. So we already took to different kind of police forces, military, Smart Dubai, different kind of government stakeholders over there, which will help them basically to handle any kind of documents or email rerouting, audit, big pile of documents that will basically take a lot of time of those decision makers to read in order to take any kind of decision. On the other side, we are active in finance. So in finance and banking, investment management, the AI is really reading all the data from the markets, trying to take a much better decision than a human, because it's all about number crunching, and thus you can basically have a more safe and more profitable basically, and more from risk perspective, we are delivering better risk-adjusted returns than most of the investment managers, human investment managers. I'm talking about them. So we do different kind of use cases. One of them is mosques. So predictive maintenance is a big part of this, basically. So we're working with the UAE government, the Saudi government, to provide them with predictive maintenance for over 5,000 mosques in the UAE alone. So,
Maybe now you'll work with Oman.
so this is alone basically would really save the cost to wait where to fix the air conditioning system, or to avoid such kind of hassles basically for the users. I can talk, but these are the most key insights of our use cases, I would say.
Well, thank you. Before jumping to the next question, Ali, would you like to comment on that? Or because you come from that industry where chatbots and
Yes.
all of that technology, and with regards to the Arabic language, I thought you might want to comment on that.
Yes, of course, it's a big challenge, and it's one of the main challenges that we identified in 2016, and we've been working to solve it since then. And the results are amazing right now. So chatbots are now able to understand Arabic, to extract intents, entities, and all the details from sentences in Arabic language, similar to what's available out there in English and other languages, and even in different dialects, which is one of the big challenges. And it's a challenge even for us as humans. Sometimes you have dialects that you do not understand easily. So computers are doing great job, and we are also doing this with different governments in the region, and we're seeing great results. One of the results that we are always proud of is having we have an AI who is trying to understand and help customers, and if it doesn't understand, it will transfer to human agent for support in one of the contact centers for a leading telecom company. And 91% of the customers are being served by the AI. Only 9% are transferred to human agent, and that is in Arabic language. So this shows you the potential and the current maturity already of the technology.
100%. That's amazing, actually, especially if it's an angry client.
Yes, especially if it's an
Give it
angry
to the
client.
AI.
Yes.
Don't give it to the agent.
No, the agents are much happier now. Yes.
So, Abdullah, is Oman building its digital health strategy based on AI? And the most important part, how do you plan to use that to deploy better health services to your citizens?
Well, as I have mentioned that since we already adopted, so it is part of health digital strategy. Is not only about AI, but we are also working too close as part of the strategy with the blockchain, with the IoT, with chatbot. Chatbot is one of the area where we can use it, and we are going to use it soon with our e-health portal for education purposes, for analytics. Currently, for example, we use a BI for the dashboards, where we can embed a chatbot to make ease of use and get a perfect analysis and perfect answers for all the analytical dashboards. Currently, we are rolling out the breast cancer. We are start working with the chest classifications. We want also to start after successful of chest. We want also to use it for neuro surgery, brains, and for heart failure as well. So there are many ways or many areas where we can improve services. The fourth industrial is about improving the services for the citizens, and all the digital strategy is meant for that. It's not about only improving the services within the institutes or within the hospitals, but also to improve the interactions with the citizens, and that is very important. And we are trying with the team. And before I forgot, our leader, Dr. Zahid, he was one of the successful leader on rolling out the AI in in breast cancer, and he is also with us in the chest classifications. What we are trying to do, we are trying to balance between IT people and the clinician side. So we are sharing the experts. One of a strategy where blockchain comes in, for example, currently within Ministry of Health in Oman, we are able to produce the National Electronic Health Record. And we want also to participate the private, bringing them on the same, because of the standardizations and those stuff where they are struggling. The blockchain can play a role of integrating with the national EHR. So for each problem, there are different solutions. AI cannot fit for everything at the same time. And there are places, or say there are areas where AI still is not mature yet, where some other solution is more stronger on that area. So we have to have a verity to ensure that the results are excellent.
Do you plan to use it for remote health diagnostics?
That's obvious. So one of the strategy, for example, even the breast cancer AI, it's a central one. So what we are aiming is we are going to put a national center for imaging, where all the radiologists are sitting up there, and it's going to be also for remote, which is again is sort of virtual clinics, either for citizens or for the remote areas, and that will play a role and improve even the services, improve even reduce the cost of traveling from area to another. That is there.
That's amazing, actually. So Ali, we go back to you. So we've been talking a lot about the skill sets, and from the experience that you've had, how do we have an AI-based generation? How should the educational sector be revamped in a way to have more AI-educated graduates?
Of course, yes, education is one of the top priorities, because artificial intelligence, just like any other technology, has human capital as the core engine for development. And this means we need to invest in human capital to bring an AI generation tomorrow, and that translates into investing into education today. And while everyone is talking about reforming education in Jordan and in the region, it's very important to blend AI in the equation. So, what do we do in terms of blending AI? There are many areas that we need to consider. Number one, it's important to have it in the curriculums that we have. Number two, it's important to start utilizing AI in education itself. So, there are many areas such as smart classrooms, the personalized education. So now, just like you have personalized recommendations from Netflix, now students are able to get personalized education based on their level and based on their skills and the subjects that they like to understand. So AI is bringing a lot of value to education, and it needs to be there. And one important thing to know is that, as they say, tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And preparing for it today is education itself. So that's why it's very important to invest in education.
Well, actually, you're taking me to Samir, because Samir, I think you can give us some insight of where Jordan stands today when it comes to setting up a policy. One, and two, if education is being integrated into that policy.
Absolutely. So we all know by now that AI is going to add over $320 billion to the Middle East economy. We need part of that cake in Jordan. So we do have opportunities here. We have very stable social and political system. We do have up-and-coming entrepreneurial ecosystem. We do have very young, highly educated population. These three opportunities need to be leveraged, basically, and we need to not only nurture and acquire, but also attract talent to Jordan. and create this regional hub here. It's very important to mention that Jordan also, I mean, I'm meeting a lot of people here in Jordan, and I can see the potential, basically, the different kind of startups working on different AI projects and opportunities that will basically help to unlock jobs, investments, attract foreign investments basically to the country here, and absolutely drive the whole economic growth. Uh, I really want to highlight or define a gap right now. So, and most of the countries around the world, exclude a couple of them, including Canada. So there is a visionary leadership. So in Dubai, for example, Mohammed Rashid Al Maktoum, he is really driving a very nice future for the whole country. Here also, the ministries, the leadership is really driving the future. But when it comes to the middle management, there is lack of knowledge, and it will never go down to the bottom management where the developers are. So there will be always a cultural gap, right? So even if you are a CEO or a manager or a minister and you really have the passion to deploy AI in your country, if you don't have the an acceptable level of awareness in the country, and if you basically do not educate them, provide them with the specialized knowledge, workshops, training, professional diploma, target school students, university students, allow them basically to work on real life projects while they are studying to apply the knowledge basically and have an applied AI knowledge. Um, this way we absolutely can close that gap and accelerate the process of creating an AI industry in Jordan. I fully believe in this.
I think what you've mentioned is quite important when it comes to closing the gap, because if you don't also train middle management, then you'll be stuck.
Absolutely.
So you have a vision, you have developers or fresh grads, but
middle is
in the
all-
middle, is,
yeah.
then you're stuck and you cannot move
So you need to
forward.
have a massive or national AI training program across
100%.
all sectors.
Yeah,
This
I
will
think
help a lot.
it's a great idea, and it should be part of our Jordanian. Yes, Abdullah, please.
If you allows me, is on not only about training. Change management is very important aspects. We have to pay attention. We cannot change people behaviors in an easy, quick manner. So unless we have really a strong case of change management, I think we will be remaining the same.
True.
Can I add one more point?
Yes,
just
sure.
To the change management also. Having a test-driven environment is very important. So we usually in our own value system, we have something called deliverable-based milestones. So you basically evaluate the value at every milestone because you wanna understand what value AI can bring to the enterprise or the government, and how that basically will help everyone. Otherwise, education alone it won't fly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Abdullah's point is taking me back to you, Ingmar. So when we talk about AI and we talk about government, we shouldn't forget there are legacy culture. There's a legacy mindset. And it's not easy to deploy and it's not going to be on the go, you know. So how do you think we can help change the mindset? How one part is from the human aspect part, and we also I'd like you to touch base on the legacy systems even.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so the let's say the cultural legacy, of course, is a bigger hurdle, and we already heard a lot about the challenges you run into in middle management and sort of change management. And I mean, there is no easy solution. I mean, the gentleman already hinted at some, efforts related to education, etc. But of course, also practically just showing people the value, right? Like showing, look, we can already, like, using existing technology, automate certain things related to Arabic language technology processing, for example, right? And just sort of that people really see firsthand the value in these technologies. And then, of course, also starting, just broader education from a very early age, showing, children what technology and AI can do for them. And we have sort of initiatives around this at QCRI as well. And of course, in all of this is important also to give people a sense of agency. I mean, not just feel, oh, this is, relating back to the sort of, innovation culture sort of.
Yes.
So this is not done elsewhere in the world. We are just sort of the consumers, right? Sort of so, but also, we can build these things in this region sort of so, and also critically reflect on things. Again, this also relates all to education. When it comes to legacy systems, I mean, so in some cases, of course, the application might be so new that there is no system, right? So for example, in Qatar, I'm sure it's the same in Jordan, right? You have annual inspections for your car, and one part of this is a visual inspection, right? Sort of so. I mean, that's should be reasonably easy to automate, sort of so. Right? And there you could sort of imagine, okay, I mean, there's at the moment it's done completely by hand, sort of so, and just sort of this, one checkbox automating that part shouldn't be too difficult again, because there is no legacy system. In other domains, in the health domain, of course, there's a lot of legacy systems already in place, and integrating with them in a careful manner or sort of so requires a lot more thought. And I guess you really have to do it on a sort of case-by-case basis and see how that works.
Thank you. So, Ali, now there's a concern out there, right? It's like AI, machine learning, robotics, and technology is like moving so fast. So how do we keep things under control?
Yes, there is a concern. I don't think that concern is justifiable, but many people who are smarter than me think that the concern is for real. And right now, it's hard to imagine because we are much smarter than computers, but it's obvious that computers' knowledge and intelligence is accelerating to a point that we call singularity, where they will start becoming more intelligent than us. And this happens for us as humans. We were not leading this planet at some point, and then we became intelligent enough to lead it. So people are concerned about these machines becoming more intelligent than us and lead it. But I think it's too early for us to start worrying from this problem. I think when the time comes, we will find good solutions for it, and I think we need to focus on the benefits now and how we can capture the many benefits of AI. And then if this problem comes, I'm sure that there will be intelligent people enough, or maybe intelligent machines enough to solve it.
Well, I think we all watch American movies, and we're
Yes.
like in our heads, the Star Treks
Yes,
and
that's the problem.
how the machines will rule the world, and you start thinking, will it
Yes,
happen?
of course.
And actually, if you see some of the videos, I was checking one the other day about this robot in military. Honestly, it's scary. I
Oh.
have to say.
Yes, they are scary.
They're very capable.
They are capable. And for example, Elon Musk
Really?
started an AI company or invested in an AI company just because he wanted to be aware of the developments so that he stays in control. So it might be a risk, but right now nothing seems risky in the coming at least 10 years.
Yeah.
So we can just dive in AI and start
Dive in for
exploring.
now and be happy.
We can worry later.
So I have one question to each one, just from your perspective, going back to the risk and the concerns from a security aspect, whether be it cyber security, data security leakage. We're putting everything out there, right? When you say AI, you say connectivity and privacy, maybe invasion a little bit. So just from your perspective, in whatever way you feel you need to address this point, to tell us how do we balance the risk from the benefit? And I'll start with you, Abdullah.
That is a tough question. I think entire life, even our life, has a risk. If I ask here the audience, how many of you having a car? Mostly all of us. How many has a smart mobile phone? All of us. These devices, vehicles, whatever, it has a risk. Shall we stop driving because we are expecting having a traffic or an accident? Shall we stop using the smartphones because it can be hacked? Definitely no. But what we need is to manage the risks and to develop whatever possible from hardware parts or from software part, the system which can protect these risks. There is nothing safe on life, but that shouldn't be a barrier where we cannot adopt those technologies. We should go and we shouldn't be scared to use them. But what we need to pay attention is the regulation
Yeah.
and the policies.
Sure.
If we have that, that is the same cover. Last night I was discussing with Dr. Zahid and other doctor. We are saying is, for example, now, when it comes to a breast cancer, for example, if there is any errors, who will be blamed? Is it the hospital? Is it the ministry? Or is it the AI? Again, when it comes to AI, is it the program itself or is it the developers? When it comes to the developer, is it the developer or the data which has been captured from? So all this sophisticated measurement is not an easy. The similar even with our human doctors now, when he made mistakes, who will be blamed? The doctor or the lecturer or the uni?
Sure.
So all these stuffs, the best answer is we have to manage the risk, and we shouldn't be scared from those cyber security. I always say is that if there is enough security, the Pentagon will not be hacked. The Mossad will not be hacked. That's an easy way.
Thank you. So Samer?
Well, I want to touch based on 2 points basically here. Well, there's a trade-off between regulation and innovation, right? So the more you regulate, the less innovation. So we need to be very careful when we start putting regulations at this very early stage. We want to have some backs in regulation, let them innovate, come up with some creative, innovative AI projects. But guidance on regulation is very important. So promoting practices among AI companies is very important. So because we do have diverse experiences in defense, medical systems, healthcare, and finance, that inspires us basically to create a defensive approach with safety first. So you basically evaluate risk at all levels, from development to integration of AI systems. On the other side, having ethical, responsible AI is very important. So you really need to take into consideration how to prevent biases in your data sets, right? So you don't want to have any kind of discrimination either on color, religion, sexes, etc. So you really need to take care of this. And before you start working on this, you really need to check your data.
True.
So assessing the maturity level of your data set is something extremely important, is a must basically for all entities that are planning to deploy AI solutions. So you want to know basically what kind of data you have. Do you have data only for men, or you have male and female? If you want to give a loan to someone who's dealing with a bank and all your data is about, let's say, white people, absolutely the AI would say just give the white people, don't give the black people,
True.
right? So these stuff are very important. We need really to take care of them just to make sure that we are delivering ethical and responsible AI.
Yes. Ali?
I think I was very impressed with what Dr. Abdullah said at the beginning of the conversation. And he said he wanted to explore with AI and wanted to see if it's intelligent or stupid. So this is the mentality of the early adopters, and we need to all be early adopters of technology. And there are risks that come with adoption technology early, number one. Number two, it's more costly to adopt it right now. So others might argue that it's better to wait few years until it's mature and less expensive and reliable and so on. But research shows that over the long term, those who adopted early were able to get the benefits from any technology. So this is very important. Number two, about regulations. Also, as Dr. Abdullah said, there are many risks around us, and sometimes we talk to regulators about some technologies. So They won't accept certain technologies because they are only, for example, 99% accurate. But the human being also is not 100% accurate. So, for example, it's easy to say that it's 95% accurate for human to compare an ID with your actual face, and this is acceptable for our life as humans and should be also taken into consideration as humans. So, I encourage everyone in the region to be early adopters and to start taking this opportunity because it's rare when there is an opportunity that you can capture similar to anyone in the world. So this is the time that we have such opportunity and we need to make advantage of it.
I agree. Ingmar.
Sure. I mean, at least as far as sort of cybersecurity risks are concerned, I think the biggest risks are related more to the, let's say, the Internet of Things or its connectivity in general, like so just the fact that if your car is connected to the internet, or if any device or your fridge is connected to the internet, of course that comes with risks, whether there's AI involved or not. Concerning the AI deployment, I think issues related to data bias and understanding these things are of utmost importance. And there's also an interesting opportunity in quotes at the intersection of cybersecurity and now data bias. So there are people are talking about data poisoning attacks that we might see in the future, right? Where I might sort of try to attack not your system but your training data, right? So if your machine learns from your data, if I can massage that data in a way, so for example, either in a way that if you try to have a machine learned antivirus or right, I might try to attack the data so it doesn't detect my virus right? Or I could even in the most harmful case try to change your system so that it might kill a patient, right? Right? So it was very indirect, in a very sort of subtle way, right? You might not even realize it if you're not aware of this, right? And so I think that those are sort of risks that we haven't seen yet, but that we might see in the next years.
Future. So I'd like to check if anyone in the audience has any questions before we wrap up.
Excuse me, we only have 2 minutes for questions, so
Okay.
maybe one or two.
Please.
My name is Nasser Salam. I just want to reflect. First of all, thank you for the valuable discussions going around here. I just want to go to Mr. Sam's point about the Canadian. I graduated from University of Ottawa. I finished my master's and my PhD in 2004. And at that time, I was working in some algorithms. And the point is, the whole thing, what we are doing in research, there's a business case. And there's a vision from the government of Canada. So whenever there's like a funds or grants, where Samir was mentioning, there was like an endpoint, a clear endpoint. Where are we reaching to? The problem here, when I came back to the Middle East, and I'm trying to find a business case, especially for the digital product, I cannot find something there. I mean, I cannot find a governance model for the digital products. I went back to the European Union. There's something called Digital Single Market Framework. I think so. Maybe you are having more experience in this. And this is adopted by European Union. So they are trying to unify all the way how they're thinking and the visionary of the European Union to have a one framework. So I think so the guys who's working the policies, reviewing this in the Jordanian or the Middle East, maybe you need to go back to this kind of framework policy, and since it's extremely agile. So they're keeping some space for innovation. They're taking some risk. They're risk appetiters. So we need to keep some space for us to move and innovate, but the others were solid, then we put some regulations and policies. This is my 2 cents, but again, we are missing the business case. And we are we don't have like a clear framework where we are setting this problem statements or the opportunity statements. We're just going like a biased. One guy or one association or one organization, government, semi-government, or a private sector having an idea. But we don't encapsulating this in a one complete framework, helping our economy. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the notes. Absolutely, the Canadian governance framework is pretty mature. So one of the policies in Canada, once you have an AI company, they will give you your first clients, basically, as just to your point, as for the business case. As a member of the National AI Strategy in Jordan and with my colleagues, basically, we are we're going to do our best to take into consideration most of the best practices, what other nations are doing when it comes to AI strategy, policies, frameworks, etc., just to make it much easier for entrepreneurs to have an easy process to set up their businesses and to get engaged basically with the markets and start having and generating real use cases and business cases so that they can basically thrive and they get the necessary support to fuel their R&D operations.
One more question, or we're okay? So we're done with time. Thank you so much, and thank you for attending this session. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.